8:15. Want to take roll?
Chair Malone.
Here.
Vice Chair Collins. Member Hansen is absent. Members Leonard.
Here.
Member Ryan is absent. Member Shu.
Here.
Member Webb.
Here.
Member Williams. Here. Member Young.
Here.
Okay, thank you. Let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. Sigrid, could you lead us, please?
Stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, now I have a little thing to do. The public comment protocol. The public may submit comments regarding items on this agenda or any matter within the jurisdiction of the Economic Development Advisory Council, electronically or telephonically. Please note the public may not speak twice on the same agenda item by using both mediums. For electronic comments, email your comments to edac@ci.norco.ca.us. Please identify the item you are referencing. For telephonic comments, call 951-582-5557 when directed. Callers will be placed in a queue and will be alerted when the 3-minute speaking period begins. Calls will be answered in the order they were received. Please note, the public is required to call in for each agenda item they wish to speak on. The Economic Development Advisory Council requests callers abide by the public decorum and use language that is appropriate for a professional, respectful public environment. With that, I need a motion to approve meeting minutes from last meeting.
I make a motion to approve.
Okay, Andy. Second?
I'll second.
Okay, Diane?
Chair Malone.
Yes.
Vice Chair Collins. Members Leonard.
Yes.
Shu.
Yes.
Webb.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Young.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, thank you. Agenda item 2. Now is the time to submit your comments for item 2. Please dial 951-582-5557 now for public comments.
We'll just give it a minute.
Sure.
Then there are no public comments.
Thank you very much. Okay, let's go to item 3, discussion and action items. Economic development. Roger?
Thank you, Chair. Excuse me. Good morning, members. This morning we're providing an opportunity, per your request, to be briefed on a development that has been proposed for the southwest corner of 3rd Street and Hamner. It's a project named Norco Valley Square. It's a significant project. I know that you've been anxious to hear about it. I only request that you recognize your purview is somewhat limited to the economic impact of the project. It's important that while you may have opinions about architecture, environmental impacts, housing policy, keep in mind that those are only relevant to this particular body if they have an economic impact. So I ask you to, I know it's sometimes difficult, but I ask you to stay focused on the economics of the project. Now, no action will be taken. This is strictly for your to file and to be, it's simply a briefing so that you can be up to date on this. And I'll now turn it over to the representatives from Frontier Communities. Questions will be taken afterwards. Gentlemen?
Button. Okay, there we go. Good morning, members. Thank you for taking time to be here, and thank you for having me here. I am just going to give an overview of the project so you can get a flavor for sort of a sneak peek of what I'll be presenting at Planning Commission. Feel free to ask whatever questions as Roger stated, but I'll give you a full overview just of everything so you guys get a full flavor for the project. My name is Andrew Winterstrom, representing Frontier Communities, and I'll just go ahead and run through, and feel free to interrupt me with questions if that's okay in this format. I don't mind at all. A little bit about our company, just in case anybody's not familiar with us. Many probably, if you are familiar with us, it would be through our home building business. We've built, thousands and thousands of homes, all here in the Inland Empire. We are an Inland Empire-based company. We live here, we build here, the owner lives here. We don't build anywhere else. Not Orange County, LA, San Diego, nowhere else. We're an Inland Empire-based company, and we're the largest private home builder in the Inland Empire. But we also do mixed use, commercial, retail. We do all forms of development, and it's ground up development from land through entitlement all the way to the end. And we, in terms of our multifamily assets, we build to hold. They are long-term assets. I know that some of the word that's been circulating in the community, there's a fear that we just build and flip, sort of typical developer that makes promises and moves on. So I think we added this slide at the front we want the public to know that that's not our MO. We will hold this for at least 30 years. So we consider ourselves neighbors and members of the community all throughout the Inland Empire, and it's important to us. I think everybody knows where the site is, but just in case, a quick slide, certainly at the beginning of the Planning Commission will show. It's a great site. I mean, the location between Hamner, a main corridor, and then third, the students, it's a wonderful commercial property. The potential for development and revenue generation is huge, and it's certainly underutilized. 19 acres of prime land like this being underutilized in its current state. Well, it is now. It actually, so as we saw this site, 2 years ago, and we just couldn't believe what a prime piece of land. It's not everywhere in the core Inland Empire like this, in a great market. I think the average income in Norco is over $90,000. This is a great market, and to have 19 acres of prime land like this, we had to know what's the backstory. Why is this still here? Why has no one developed this? And so as we started to dig into that, one of the challenges, as you pointed out right away, was that it's an assemblage. You have 3 separate parcels. In fact, I think the next slide even shows it. So you have three separate parcels, 2 different owners. Assemblages are difficult to do. You have to make all the land deal work. You have to get everybody on the same terms and price and everything else. So that's one challenge that the site presented. But I think moreover than that, it's the unique zoning. So the zoning of the site, historically, it's one of the oldest specific plans in the city, the Norco Auto Mall specific plan. So, I mean, I think it was, originally intentioned as a car dealership. But in 2012, not because they wanted to, but because under, the state mandates, even going back that far, of course, it's only increasing in strength, but the city was forced to find land to do high density housing. So they selected this parcel to do the HDO, the multifamily overlay at a very high density. So between the two, you got some really unique zoning. A lot of developers do either residential or they do commercial, but not both. Especially in the Inland Empire, there's very few true mixed-use developers, such as ourselves or a Lewis or not a lot of them. So as we dug into the site and we started to figure out, 20 to 30 unit density is extremely dense. You can't hit that density with like a 2-story product. We build 2-story. That's another sort of misnomer I think that's out there, is that we're choosing to do a 3-story product. It's not that. We love two-story. We build two-story. I mean, we actually just finished a two-story project, a 160-unit project. There's nothing special about three-story that we love. It's just that's what the site calls for. That is the zoning. So, you're talking, a mixed-use site, commercial mixed with, three-story units. It's a challenging site to make work. But it's still an opportunity that, you go back to the previous slide, it's still a really nice opportunity between the economic value of the trips on Hamner, and then if there was a way that you could capture the dollars of the students coming in and out of there, we really saw an opportunity. So we met very early on with Roger and the former planning director to say, well, and I'll just go into the next slide. So about 2 years ago was the context of, coming into the city, and I had just come off of my hometown, Riverside, next door here, getting sued over the similar thing, over their housing element being non-compliant. And so because we are in this community and, I live there even, we said, what can we do to help? We worked directly with the city. We went out and purchased the largest vacant land site that we could find in the heart of Riverside, 10 acres. And basically, sat on it for 18 months to let them get the credit for upzoning it and working with them on their development standards, because they didn't even have any development standards that would allow you to do what the state was mandating, what the settlement, the lawsuit was forcing them to do. So coming off of that 2 years ago, the climate had, Huntington Beach was getting sued, Riverside had gotten sued. I met with Roger and Steve and just kind of wanted to explore, I told them from the beginning, very humble. I'm not trying to push a rope uphill, I think I said. And, I know that this would be a controversial project to say the least, but is there an openness to maybe, we would work with you. We would listen to you. We would do the best project we could possibly get. There was a hope at the time. I think at the time the RENA numbers or the housing element allocation was 800 and something. There was a hope that it would go down to around, basically, we could do this one project, it would be the best it could be, and then, allow Norco to fly under the radar and then continue to defend its lifestyle after that. So that was the context of how I, kind of came in and talked about this idea from the jump. So this is kind of the timeline that I just kind of walked you through. So early on, it was, meetings with Roger and Steve, exploring, could we do this land assemblage? Could we make that work? Also from the beginning, even though the recommendations, city staff didn't see any reason why we couldn't do a mitigated negative declaration because it's a conforming land use. I'm not changing anything. But we decided that voluntarily to go through an EIR process. One of the biggest reasons was the format of the EIR allows everything to be explored thoroughly, which we knew, given the controversial nature of the project, would be appreciated, and that everything was studied to the fullest extent. Also, another benefit, what we hoped at the time, was that the EIR process allows for public meetings early on, sort of charrettes, where you stage, you rent a space out, set up stations, you can explore the ideas, get feedback early on. Unfortunately, as the first one was scheduled for either, I think it was like mid to late March or early April, I can't remember exactly, but the March-April timeframe was the first one that we had scheduled, and we all know what happened in March. So the one drawback, of this past year has been, not the amount of face-to-face, hands-on public interaction that we would have liked. But we did, nonetheless, still do the EIR, and there is still the public noticing that goes along with it. There is still all of the technical studies that go along with it. It's certainly much more bulletproof than just a mitigated neg deck, and we did that voluntarily. The good part of it, even though it wasn't the hands-on sort of face-to-face interaction that we would have loved, is that we did get a lot of feedback. I mean, this town has done a very good job of reaching back out. I've put my contact information out there, and people have definitely participated in the project all along the way. And it's benefited us. Early on, the original site plan, even that was a huge collaboration with city staff early on to come up with what fit the bill of what they were looking for. public gathering space, something that really spoke to Norco. How do we capture the students that are just coming in and out, and never spending their money here in the city? How do we capture those dollars? How do we make something that has the character of Norco? There was a long list of check the box things that we needed to hit to make the right development. And so we worked on that for quite some time to try to figure out what is the right thing to build that can do all of those things. Over time, the project has changed through the EIR process and all of the comments that we received. Early on, obviously, the hotel was a component that we thought worked. We thought it would generate a lot of TOT and bring revenue to the city. And but over time, that became the most disliked portion of the site. We heard everything from just sort of feedback, not another hotel. We heard, the 4 stories is too much. There's not really a whole lot that we can do landscaping-wise for 4 stories. That's pretty tall. There's not a lot of tree species that really get that tall. The traffic impact, a 4-story, 120-room hotel. For various reasons, it quickly became, once we really went out to the public, sort of the most disliked portion of the project. And so, in addition to that, we also got a lot of positive feedback, which was surprising. I was ready for the worst. But we got a lot of positive feedback about the apartments and how there was a need for various types of housing in the city, whether it's veterans returning, college students returning, young professionals. A need for not everybody can swing a $700,000 half-acre equestrian property, especially the millennials. But they said, but if you're going to do that, where's the affordable component? Student, because they're aware, market rate apartments are still expensive. Not as bad as saving up for a down payment, but nonetheless, rents are high. And so, the more we went on, that became not just from the public, staff, council, everybody started to sort of coalesce around the idea that, what can we do to include an affordable component? And it took a lot of work because we are not affordable developers, we are market rate developers. But we had to build performas and really try to figure out how can we make this pencil. We had to build performance from scratch because we didn't even have anything that could help us calculate what is the time value of money over 55 years that these units don't generate the proper revenue. But we did figure it out, and it basically came to a 1-to-1 ratio. For every one of those, you had to have another unit to try to make up for the lost revenue. And so between the hotel feedback and between the feedback about help us with our arena numbers, we need affordable units, we arrive at the site plan on the right there where we have 75 additional units. We didn't quite get that 1-to-1 ratio, but it's close enough where it still pencils. And we are now including a 10% affordable component and we'll hit all 4 of the arena categories from the very low income all the way up to the moderate income. And so we look forward to working with city staff as well as likely the college to come up with some sort of criteria. Now the good news is the way we're going to do it, or the way we've been requested to do it and have agreed, is it's not going to be like an affordable component. In other words, some building somewhere where all of the affordable people are. It's going to be spread throughout the community. You'll never know the difference between whether it's an affordable unit or not, other than the covenant that's restricted on it and the income that we collect. So we look forward to working, finding some sort of criteria where maybe people get recommended to us, or how we divvy these out. It's going to be federally regulated like the way true affordable housing, when it's you've got special loans and special taxes and all kinds. The true affordable. This is just going to be privately run. The covenant will be on there to restrict us and prevent us from doing anything other than what we say we're going to do. But we get to control who we select. So. It'll be fun to work with the college and city staff and figure out how we do that. There are other changes in the site plan as well. I can go through them as we go. Hotel was removed, arena requirements, safety and security. So one of the things early on in the site plan, we thought it would be fun to try to connect the private trail that runs from Mountain along the back of Paddock Lane and connect that, kind of run it through our site and connect it up to our commercial element. But as we got more and more feedback from the community, there were some challenges with it just from a grading and horse safety perspective. There were some inclines to make the grades work, and it started to look difficult anyway. But the nail in the coffin was the feedback we got that, do not connect it through. There was a fear that, pedestrians and students and anybody else would start parking on Mountain and walking through, using the trail to walk through the site. And so we made that change and have completely secured the south boundary. It's completely walled off, no connectivity that way. This is a snapshot of some of the fees that this site would generate if the project was approved. It certainly generates a ton, 17 million in fees. We have breakdowns of this, and I'll give my card after if anybody who wants it, and you can certainly follow up with me, or I'll give my contact information, or Roger, however you want to do it. We can certainly go into depth, but this is a snapshot of the amount of fees that this project will generate. In addition to the one-time fees, you also have ongoing revenues, property taxes, sales taxes. There's quite a bit of revenue that will be generated.
Original model or the alternative? Because I imagine it differs depending on if the hotel is factored into this or not.
I can't do that. Yeah. 95 units, the alternative.
Okay.
So for our commercial development, we really wanted to take advantage of what a unique town this is and the trail system that already exists. You have, from both sides of town, you've got a trail system that could potentially bring you right to our site through 3rd and then through 3rd Avenue. So we have included a private equestrian loop around our commercial, so it'll blend right in with the cities. No one would even realize that it's not part of the trail system, but of course it won't be. So it'll be privately built, privately maintained. So the city would kind of get the best of both worlds is what our intention is for that. And we really want it to be used. And as we've continued to dialogue with the community, we've gotten a lot of good feedback on how to make this work. Even just recently, we were talking with the Horsemen's Association, and they gave us a lot of great feedback. So I'm excited as we get into, if the project is approved, as we get into final engineering. We've gotten a lot of feedback on how to make this work better. Comments about the paddock, how to make it more functional. Comments about line of sight, and sort of horror stories at other places that have horses where they come out and find some stranger on their horse. We've heard a lot of good feedback, stuff that as a developer we're not necessarily in tune with or thinking about as we're designing. So I'm going to continue to stay highly engaged with the public here in Norco and get feedback as we go through final engineering on how to make it really viable. We want it to be used, and we want people to ride their horse and come enjoy this amenity. So we're excited about that. So as I said earlier, at the beginning when we were trying to, what can we do that will hit all of the, check all the boxes of what the city is looking for in terms of commercial development. We finally arrived on our sort of inspiration, which is, if anybody's familiar with Temecula Vale headquarters, just as a starting place, it checked a lot of the boxes in terms of a community gathering space. They hold events. It's curated is what it's called. We know the developers who own this site. They also are involved with something I was familiar with even before this, which is the Riverside Food Lab, which is sort of an indoor. I don't know if anybody's familiar with it, but the Riverside Food Lab is sort of an indoor version of what we want to do. So it's a sort of combination of the food lab and here, and also, and this is the curation where they're holding events. You can do farmers markets. You can rent out the space to do all kinds of events, and a combination of that with is sort of the outdoor space, the outdoor gathering space, and a community hub of the Stone Brewery and World Gardens, that sort of outdoor, if anybody's been there, it's gorgeous out back in terms of the landscaping and a space to hang out. It's so popular over time, and you can hardly even get in there. It's always rented out for a wedding or a private event or whatever, which was another thing we heard, not enough rentable space for large gatherings. And so between all of those different boxes we were trying to hit, our idea we came up with is our food garden. So it's based on the concept of a Western town, so, the strip down the middle, the buildings on the sides. We're going to use really authentic materials and make it look like an authentic old Western town. Now, the buildings that you see, except for the saloon, you don't actually go in any of them. That's all just food prep internally, and then sort of pass-through window for the food, and it's all outdoor. The two structures you see on the top side, on the right side, they're both just outdoor seating, even though the one has a face on it, just to kind of give you that sense of the Western town. But even behind that, it's all just outdoor seating. So it would have been nice to even have this year. It would have been one of the few things people could come enjoy until it got really bad, because it was all outdoors. So we think this is going to be really successful and sort of hit all those boxes. We hope that college students are coming here and eating lunch. We know, I'm sure it'll be popular on the weekends. We have it works synergistically with the units themselves. Our hope is that, with the variety of food that you would have, that the people in the multifamily will come and eat here, every day, hopefully. That would be the intent. So we think this is going to be a really successful commercial development. And we have the plans we had done in SketchUp 3D, and we were able to animate it to show you. But we're excited that overall we have worked very hard to try to hit everything that city staff and the public has been looking for. We did the EIR, sort of voluntarily. The project certainly complies with all of the zoning. Our intent from the beginning was to help the city address its mandates and sort of continue to fly under the radar. We think once it's built out, it'll be a vibrant community hub and provide a range of housing opportunities. I'm available for any questions.
Very good. Quick question on the size of the residential portions. What square footage and number of bedroom type mix are you looking at?
It's mainly a mix of 1 and 2 bedroom. There's maybe like 5% 3 bedroom, but mainly kind of a 50-50 split, okay, or 45-45 split of 1 bed, 2 bed. Footages are 750 to what I think the 2-story doesn't get much over 1,100 or 1,200 or something like that. Yeah.
Very good. Any other questions, folks?
Yes, I have a question. Concerning the commercial area, you showed us a slide or an animation that was the food garden. Is the food garden the full extent of the commercial area, or is there other commercial area beyond the food garden?
No, there's the 5 acres are dedicated to that use, and that is our commercial component.
Okay, so all of that is the food garden. Okay.
So there will be no storefronts, just food?
Well, we're set up along that frontage there to have, whether it's a farmer's market or, tents with people, with their wares. There will be no permanent retail component. If that's none of the buildings inside are intended to be anything other than food uses.
And
But-
we also get a lot of wind here, having everything outdoors. That stopped our farmers market here.
A lot of what? I'm sorry.
Wind.
Oh, wind. Yeah.
Have they, I mean,
Yeah, so that's the thing is we can plan it for when we're going to have good weather. Yeah, I don't think we'd want to. So that's a whole. We'll hire a professional company to do what they call curating. Setting up the programs. When are we going to have events, etc. Weather would certainly wind would take a factor. Even heat. I mean, if we're going to be experiencing 110. That weekend, probably not the best time to try to hold an event. There are companies that specialize in the curation of the property, along with maintenance, security, all of those aspects to make it a successfully managed and run project. We'll be hiring a company to do that specifically.
so basically the revenue will be from food people, and the vendors that you're going to have that will purchase or rent from you, are your rental spaces going to be competitive because you don't want them to be sitting there empty?
Correct. They will be competitive, and they'll be leasees. Yeah, we'll just be the landowner, and we'll be looking to bring the best individual little restaurants. They're really, it's a variety of people. We've learned a lot about this over the course of the last 2 years, and I've been working closely with happens to be a councilman now, but that's irregardless. Ronaldo Fierro from Riverside. He owns the Salted Pig, and he also was involved in the creation of the food lab. And so as a restaurant owner and somebody that's done one of these before, we've been working with him on, how do you get the best vendors. And he said the mistake a lot of people make is they try to incubate, small people that haven't done this before, and it doesn't work out. So you're better off getting somebody that maybe they had a food truck business and it's been expanding. They have 5, 6, 7 of them now. They're just wildly successful. They're taking off, but they would love a permanent fixed space as well. So this is a perfect transition for them because it's only like 750 square feet of rentable space, 850 square feet of rentable space. It's a small unit to just like the food lab.
I just have one more question.
Sure.
In the residential area, so is it going to be, I know you said you don't have any retail space, but are there going to be amenities for the renters in those apartments? Like some of the places at Parkview or whatever in Irvine and things like that, where they have a mail area and they have a coffee shop. And are you putting any of that within the housing?
Not a coffee shop, but yes, absolutely. You have amenities. There's a gorgeous clubhouse that's for the entire project. That 2 stories with a roof deck. The roof deck is going to be a furnace, open air roof deck, covered though, but open air on the sides, with all kinds of a lounge amenities and cool hangout place. There's a pool, a spa, another.
So, I'm interrupting you, sorry, but so the only economic impact for us will really be the food court.
In terms of sales, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, sales is all about the food court.
I could see this as an opportunity for farmers here in Norco, because the farm to fork movement is actually pretty huge.
Sure.
And this could actually benefit farmers here in Norco. There is certification courses that people can take to get their GAPS training, so that way local farmers here could actually grow their produce and sell to these restaurants. So in essence, these restaurants, the food garden, could be selling Norco grown produce.
Absolutely.
Norco grown eggs, Norco grown meats,
Absolutely.
Norco grown everything on a whole level.
Love that.
And so I would love to see if there's a way that we can incorporate that, so that way we're benefiting the agricultural community here in Norco, because if somebody comes, it's like they're eating homegrown food from all the community. And so meats, eggs, produce, all of that could be incorporated. That would be really great. And so I know that every square foot, it's a tight space. Every square foot is sacred, but can we even incorporate a community garden within that space? Maybe if there's a way even for the people in the apartments to kind of have a community garden, so that way they can contribute to that.
Yeah,
that
the
whole
farm to table, we absolutely want to be a part of this, and that's part of curating and selecting the right leases, and getting the right people in there. I mean, that's sort of the trend in these food gardens and food halls is it's artisanal, locally sourced. Certainly the theme of the food itself, we want them to match the town. You know what I mean? So it's Western themed, whether it's barbecue and burgers and whatnot, but we want the actual product that comes out to be artisanal, quality, high-end, and quality. So we would love to get vendors in there that are interested in sourcing locally.
I mean, I think anybody appreciates and would understand the value of a non-commercial agricultural meat versus a locally
Sure.
humanely raised animal, and it's
Sure.
like they're going to come and have the best food that they possibly can that hasn't been sitting in a freezer or on a truck. They're going to get the best food. But not only that, that would financially benefit citizens of Norco who want to participate, who want to grow, and that would further enhance the agriculture community that we are.
And these are the spaces where you get the customers. You attract the right customer that's willing to pay a little bit more for quality food like that's locally sourced. You're not, if you just want a burger and you don't care what it is, then you can go to any drive-through, right? But if you want a grass-fed beef, burger,
Norco
raised
burger.
locally or whatever, this is the kind of place that you attract those customers.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Love to get
Okay.
learn more about this.
Okay.
I have another question.
Okay.
And it's actually kind of a twofold question. I was looking at the plans, and trust me, I'm not trying to be negative on the plans or anything like that, but it came to my mind that since this is a self-contained community and you're trying to draw in a lot of outside people as well into a food court, it seems to me that there should be, and I don't know, maybe you have this, some sort of provision made economically through the developer in order to provide security for the site.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, because that could be a pretty significant impact on the city, because it's a small area that a lot of
absolutely.
people are going to be in.
Absolutely. Both will have, so we'll have two different property. We'll have a specialized property management company to take care of the commercial, and then another property management company to take care of the residential, and they'll both have security. Absolutely.
Which leads me to my other question is what is the capacity, if you will, that you could foresee of the entire project? I mean, of people. I mean, I believe you have parking underground or something like that for the residents. Is that correct? Or parking garages or something?
Not underground, but it's called tuck under. It's a 3-story walk-up product, or
Sure.
2-over-1 we call it. So there's garages on the ground floor.
But that's for the residents.
Correct. I think if I'm understanding your question the right way, I think like absolute capacity would be I think 800 parking spaces total between the commercial and the residential.
So in theory, if it's 800 parking spaces and you're figuring 4 people per car, that's really...
I'm including the residential though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, but I mean, I'm trying to come up with a number in my mind of how many humans, sorry about that, how many humans we could feasibly see in that small area. And like I said, I'm asking for curiosity's sake.
Sure. No,
I'm
it's a
not
great
passing any
question.
judgment.
We're a little early in the if the project, we're at the conceptual stage. If the project's approved, we still have another 6 months of final engineering to go through, and through that process, we'll have to work with fire. They'll be the one to,
Sure.
they'll review all our studies, and we submit a bunch of the whole process we have to go through, and they will determine what our capacities are for everything, for the clubhouse, for the commercial. Fire will tell us when you're at capacity.
Because that's one of the things we don't really see a lot in Norco's overcrowded areas.
Right.
And so that was one of the concerns that I had, because that's an expense
Sure.
to the city.
Sure. I mean, don't get me wrong. We want it to be wildly successful.
Sure.
That's a good problem to have. If I've got to figure out, how to manage large crowds, that means we're doing well and we're generating a lot of revenue.
I agree.
But yeah, there's regulations for all of this.
Can I
Thank you.
a little bit? I've got a great the picture up here, it's from the Temecula Vale headquarters, and you go there, pre-pandemic on a Friday, Saturday evening. There's families out there. There's small concerts, and as Andrew said, we want this to be vibrant, a community hub, and the goal is, we want people to whether it's ride the horses or walk in the, from the neighborhoods to the center. So, it's a mixture of cars and transit and people walking just from the neighborhoods, and I think it's our job from a developer private standpoint to make that and accommodate that as easy as possible, because we traffic or anything like that is going to be an issue, and as a private developer we wanted to make it efficient as possible.
So I have the parking leads to a question.
Sure.
Is the parking shared between commercial and residential, or will they be completely separated?
Well, we'll own the entire property, so how we manage that the way it's set up to regulation, they are completely separate. They both carry their own. So from a regulatory standpoint, we don't need shared parking to make anything work. But I think you were asking in a more practical sense if we'll have to see if the residents start to try to use the commercial parking as like a guest parking,
And
which they
vice
shouldn't,
versa,
and they won't need to. But if they do, and it becomes a problem, we're talking about on property at that point. So we can self-regulate, right? We can come up with sticker programs. We can come up with guest parking tags, and if you don't have it, we have tow authority. I mean, we'll manage our own property as we see fit between the two shared spaces.
But the intent is for it to
for them to be separate. Yeah.
separate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is kind of covered by both Andy and Diane, but I just want to ask one final question about the parking. Is because I think we've all been to different complexes where the parking seems to overflow and it fills. I think when you're talking about self-regulating within the complex, that's completely understandable. I think our concern is when that capacity becomes filled and they start parking on the street side.
Sure.
So that's one where it becomes a little bit of a concern on how is that being addressed. And I think part of the question to you is, are you realistically adequately addressing the parking on site?
Yes.
Because I think one of the things that we kind of take for granted in Southern California is that everybody drives. This isn't like New York City where nobody has a car type of deal. This is every single person has a car. Every single probably has multiple cars. I've got 4 cars. So
we're absolutely addressing that. We've got a parking ratio for both the residential and the commercial that is become the sort of new standard in Southern California for these type of developments. Also, the rents, they're tried and true. These are parking ratios that are being done all over Southern California. So we are adequately, addressing it. And as well, there's still, again, regulatory power, right? So we can I've got no problem with, I don't think there's actually parking allowed on any of the streets around us. But
well, I think we may talk about that in a little bit after this agenda item. But I did have one more quick question for you that I think I heard the answer to it, but I just want to get confirmation. And then I had a question for Andy after that. When you're talking about the retail part, the retail component, I think you had mentioned that you guys are going to own all of that. So
we'll own the entire thing.
So will you guys be managing that?
No, we'll hire a specific property manager to curate it and to manage it on a day-to-day basis.
So the follow-up question to that would be, would that be part of the same phase as the residential side? Because my concern is for you guys to develop out the residential and then there's just a kind of a barren lot in the front.
Oh no, we see the commercial as we see it as very synergistic use. We think that the food garden, living next to this food garden, it's almost like an amenity. Of course, it's not free. To Vail headquarters itself, to the Riverside Food Lab, what's the key to making these things successful? And it's getting people in at lunch and getting it to be used all the time and not just sort of a weekend fun thing for people to go to. And so we see this thing as an amenity living next to it and being able to just walk out of your unit and go grab a bite of something delicious and walk back. We see it as an amenity, and this won't be a phased development as well. Just I think kind of addressing your question is we're working on a development agreement with the city, when that's one of the questions that they had the same question, and so we're not applying for a phased development, meaning like, okay, we're going to build this and then later we'll build this, or we're just going to put all the infrastructure in from the beginning and go. Now, the only caveat I will say to that, just be perfectly honest with you, is that COVID's a little bit of a wild card. I wouldn't want to open it up and still be in purple tier and nobody can come. That's it's not going to be a successful commercial development. But minus that caveat of wanting to open it up when public, I think there's going to be a real hunger, pun intended, for public gathering and having fun in public spaces once we get this under control. And so I'd love to time it, as early as possible and have it ready to go as soon as we get back into the lower tiers.
Well, I think what you presented addresses a lot of the concerns that have been heard by the public. I had a question for Andy on this. Given what they're presenting, I think one of the things that early on was the concern that it was market rate product and that it wasn't addressing the low income. And then you had mentioned that I think it was 10% of the units would be low income. I guess the question to you, Andy, is if we had 10% of these, where does that put us in terms of state requirement? Are we kind of still under the gun? Like, if we develop this out, is the next development still going to be, well, we're still under the gun, we still got to do this? I think there's going to be a lot of Norconians that are asking, okay, this is a great product, but can we get it all in on one shot so that we're not having to worry about this anymore?
Yeah, it's almost a one and done on the housing allocation, just not the arena.
Mm. Good. Okay, let's take a couple more questions here. I know Sigrid has several, but let's limit it to 2 more.
Yeah, I have quite a few questions for you, Andrew. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm going to combine a couple of them together because I think they can go well. Do you already have any contractual agreements with any of your vendors to go into this retail food court? And then, if you do or if you don't, how are you going to enhance this and not create an oversaturation of our current food retailers that we have in the area? Because I don't want to see, we need to bring a new demand into the town. I don't want to see a reassign from one retailer to another. So can you go into detail on that?
Yeah, so we certainly don't have anybody leased up right now. That'd be much too presumptuous. We don't even have an approved project yet. And then even from there, we still have, like I said, about 6 months of design and engineering and architecture to actually design the spaces so that vendors can see, every little detail of the floor plans. Where's the kitchen go? Where's the storage? Where are the cooktops? There's a lot of work ahead of us if we're approved. So no, we don't have anybody leased up. But this will not be a regurgitation of anything that you see. We're not talking, national chains. We're talking about local business owners that are bringing something unique and like the Anaheim Packing House or the Food Lab, or if you've been in any of these, or Steelcraft. There's a lot. They're still relatively new. We're kind of on the cutting edge, but we're not the first ones out the gate. This is being done, and it's a great concept, and everywhere that we've seen it where it's done well. So that'll be the fun part, is actually tasting all the food and seeing who makes the cut to bring these vendors in.
So I noticed in your revamp, you had no hotel. Why not put, and I understand with the low density, putting the additional units in there so we can have our affordable housing, but why not more retail to offset that loss of potential transient tax?
Yeah, retail is just a very tough thing to do. Even before COVID, retail was getting hammered by the just sort of Amazonization of the retail world. COVID has only accelerated that. So it's going to be a real challenge, even coming out on the other side of COVID. I think a lot of commercial owners are going to be struggling to find retailers as tenants and make their numbers work. We did look at it early on, though. Long before COVID, we were working with economic development, Roger, and kind of seeing what were the different brands that would work with Norco, and what didn't you have, what would not be an oversaturation, and that was sort of that process I was saying as we went through, like how do we hit all these things with something, and we arrived at this. But yeah, retail's really tough.
Another question I had is, our city manager is a guru with numbers. Okay, really a guru with numbers. When it comes to additional expenses, and I noticed in some of the paperwork on your project that there could be additional expenses for the city, and they might have to encumber like public safety, how are you going to offset that?
You're right. He is good with numbers, and he's a good city manager on your behalf, working hard on your behalf. We're probably going to do a development agreement to offset. In addition to all of our development impact fees, there will likely be a development agreement to address even impacts greater than that. And I can let him speak to that. I don't want to.
That's great. All right. One more.
Hang on, I got a few more. That's done. Actually, I got two more for you.
Okay.
I'm going to go back to parking.
Yeah.
Here in the city of Norco, many of us drive trucks, drive dualies. Problem we have going into new retailers or new parking lots is the parking spots are 7 feet wide and our dualies are 8 feet wide. Your parking for this establishment, are you taking into consideration the larger parking? So instead of trying to say we're going to have 50 spots for retail, you may only really get 30 spots. I mean, have you looked at that to ensure that the larger vehicles are going to be able to find parking there?
Honestly, only on the commercial aspect. So if you have a dually, maybe renting at our place might not work for you. If the garage, if your car situation doesn't work for our residential portion, that's a self-selecting factor sort of a thing.
Okay. I think that's something you might want to think about with the retail, because I'm sure everyone sitting up here probably has a truck in their driveway.
Yeah, no, absolutely. On the commercial component, 100%.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then the last thing, we've had this conversation with EDAC many times that, our retailers get their business from foot traffic. It's not about the vehicles driving down our roadways, whether it's 6th or Hamner, stopping in. It's the foot traffic. And I noticed that you said that you've had some concerns from the individuals that are living south of the project about that multi-purpose trail, their backyard trail. Okay. And I've had this question posed to me by other residents. Will there be an entrance? And I know you said initially no, but we are now basically disenfranchising a neighborhood that's south that would be required to come up Mountain, down Belgian, down 3rd Street to get into your establishment versus being able to come straight from 2nd Street through that backyard trail into your establishment. So I just think that that's something you may want to think about. It's not just about 5 or 6 residents on one street. That is a multi-purpose trail for an entire neighborhood and the city. So it's not that we can say, oh, well, we're gonna keep it here and cut it off. We need to really think about allowing that foot traffic to come in. So it's just something for you to, think about possibly putting an entrance, a walkway in there. And I understand that might bring some other problems, but that's outside of our purview, so I'm not gonna address that. And then, have you ever actually done a project that's identical to this before? And if so, what was the success?
Identical to this? Absolutely not. This is definitely the most unique. Norco is obviously a very unique city, and so this is definitely the most unique project, that we've done. Components that are similar, but not this way. We have a gigantic 80-acre master plan that's going to be a mixed-use component, but completely different theme, completely different vibe, completely different targets that we're trying to hit. So, we like to, every project that we do tends to be unique, but certainly for this city, this is the most unique.
I do have one more question. I'm sorry, Pat.
Okay, go ahead.
Your recreation center, you had mentioned that anyone can use that. Is that going to be a residential use, or is that a pay-for-service if somebody from the town wanted to come in and use your pool?
No, it'll be for renters only.
Okay. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Okay, let's move on to, this is your staff presentation.
I have a question that's kind of relevant to EDAC. I was curious, have you determined how many jobs this will create?
No, that economic analysis, it's difficult to do because of the fact that they will be the private, they'll be private business owners, and we're not sure how they're going to staff it. That's where it gets tricky. We could come up with some estimates, but I just wouldn't want to, quote it because of the fact that if it's going to be run, if it's more of a family-run operation, you imagine they're going to be smaller amount of people working more hours versus if they're having students work there and it's a lot of shifts, then you're going to have more jobs for less hours. So no, I don't have that answer for you that I can with confidence.
Okay, thank you. Very good. All right.
Anything else?
I think that's it.
Okay.
Thank you
so much for your time.
Thank you for your presentation. We appreciate it.
Can you,
I'll
excuse
make
me,
my contact information available as well.
can you ask for public comments?
Yes, I'll do that now. So public comments, now's the time to submit your comments for item 3A. Please dial 951-582-5557 now.
There are no public comments.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so we've kind of had our discussion. I think this is a really good interaction, and we appreciate your time for coming in. Okay, so we're going to the next agenda item, item 4. Okay, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Is there any updates on the exploratory committee updates? We had the technology stuff, parking.
Technology has not yet had a chance to meet.
I understand. Okay, good. We did get a note from Mike Ryan on NACC, so we'll follow that up next month. And then you guys met on parking?
The parking, yeah, we had an initial discussion. We have some more meat to put it.
You're not ready this week. That's
fine. We did have an initial discussion. We need to meet with Chad and look a little bit more into code and things like that before we come back with any type of recommendations.
Excellent. Very good. Things are moving along, looks like. Slowly, but moving. All right. City manager, Andy, is he still here? He's out there. And staff communications. You know if Andy had anything? Okay. Well, I guess we can call us done. Meeting adjourned at 9:15.